Vegas.
Yes.
How was the trip? How are you? Did you gamble? Did you win? What happened?
Yeah, whenever my wife and I do a trip like this, we haven't been to Vegas in 17 years, but we take money with us that we don't call gambling money. We call it losing money.
That's a safer
it's
bet to go
entertainment
with.
money. But actually, I did pretty good, Baxter.
Did you?
I hit a royal flush this
Really?
weekend. I was only playing quarters.
So
but
this is your last show. You're retiring. And you're flying.
I wish it was.
You're buying
that
a
big of
franchise.
a win,
You're like,
basically, I want enough money to pay for our vacation, which is
there you go.
That's the one great thing about Vegas is it's one of the few places you can go to and actually win back what you spent on your vacation.
True.
So yeah, it was. But the most important thing is got to spend some lovely time with my wife Sarah. It's always hard to come back to reality. Love being back with our kids, but always a little bit difficult to come back to reality after getting a extended weekend away and just spending some really incredible, valuable time with my wife.
Understandably, but it's great to obviously have you back on the show. I mean, you were here in spirit technically last week. I mean, you Skyped in because you were
I was sick.
you were battling the sickness, but I mean, it's nice to have you physically back in the studio.
Likewise, feels good to be back here, Baxter.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited to be back. Of course, at a different time than we usually are here on Brew Sports, but traditionally you can find us here on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central Time live on Brew Sports. You can also see our shows streaming live on YouTube and on Spreaker.com as well. You can also find our show on our website, 2upfrontsoccer.com, the number 2, and also go to brewsportsnet.com to get past episodes of all the great shows and interviews that we do as well here on 2 Up Front.
Yeah, and check us out on Facebook. We've always post our shows there. Any interviews we do, we post there as well. Just type 2 Up Front in the search bar. You'll find us. Give us a like, give us a share. Thank you to all of you who have already done that. Numbers keep growing, which is great to see. You can also check us out on Twitter at 2 Up Front Soccer and our own personal handles at Simon Provan, at Baxter Colburn.
Yes, indeed. Time to get into the kick around. We've got 3 great interviews that we're going to get to in just a little bit. There's not been a lot of stuff happening really on the field to talk about, Simon, but thankfully we've been able to get 3 amazing people for 3 amazing interviews today as well too. We're gonna,
off the field,
off
right?
the field, rather. Yeah, they might be on the field running around. Like I was wondering why people were running around with cell phones during the middle of the games last week, and I wonder if certain players were not playing good. But we're going to have Sky Blue FC Christy Holly joining us in our second segment. We're going to be joined by Andrew Dykstra of Sporting Kansas City. They're one of their goalkeepers. And then good friend of the show, Jessica McDonald from the NC Courage, is also going to swing by the program to help us close things out as well, too. So full show, a lot of things to get to. But it is the kick around that we like to start every show with, and some very intriguing things taking place. First and foremost, your favorite tournament, the CONCACAF Champions League, is taking place right now. Pachuca getting a very crucial away goal, from what you've been telling me. But where do we stand at this current point in time?
Yeah, well, great game as far as the results. I got to be honest with you, Baxter. I've only been able to read about the game, and I know we do have a few fans of the show that love it when I talk about this. So I have to apologize for not giving my in-depth analysis this week. But again, spending time with my wife, that was a little bit more important than soccer. It happens.
It does.
It happens once in a while.
Yes, absolutely.
But it 1-1, Pachuca against Tigres. Big goal, as you said, for Pachuca, Omar Gonzalez's club. Able to go home with that away goal, which is very important in this tournament, obviously. But it was a 1-1 draw. First leg of the CONCACAF Champions League final. So this is it. This is the winner of this series ends up going to the FIFA Club World Cup. Traditionally, the CONCACAF teams have not done that great at the FIFA Club World Cup, so we hope that whoever goes this time will represent the region a little bit better. Raul Lopez, though, gave Pachuca the lead in the 3rd minute, Baxter, against Tigres. So Pachuca was feeling really good.
As the away side.
As the away side, right. So it looks like they came in with a plan to attack. But Argentine, and of course we know that Liga MX is full of Argentinian players as well, scored a goal in the 32nd minute. That was Ismael Sosa in the 32nd minute. So both goals coming in the first half, finishes up 1-1. So we'll see what happens in the second leg.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Vancouver and FC Dallas, the 2 MLS clubs, making it to the semifinals, but not being able to get through to the finals ultimately. And I guess it does beg the question again, how long until we see another MLS team in the CCL finals again?
Well, I think with the format that they've switched to now, where it's going to be all of a knockout stage basically for MLS clubs, they won't have to prep for as many games. There won't be that schedule congestion. And look, the last time the tournament used to be the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and it was an all-knockout tournament. The 98 DC United team won that tournament. The LA Galaxy, I believe it was 2002, won the tournament as well. So early on in MLS life, they had a couple of championships in the CONCACAF region. So actually, I think as much as this format doesn't help them in the respect that it's still going to be during the early part of the MLS season that these games happen, I do think that these players won't be as tired, and perhaps it does help MLS get to that final, and I don't know, maybe win this thing.
Yeah, and that would certainly be great. It only boosts the confidence of players in Major League Soccer, of course, when you can go out and win an international tournament. I mean, it is technically, it's domestic, but it's international at the same time because you're not just playing people from your league at the same time.
Right. And let's be honest, Baxter, whether you're talking about Central American teams, whether you're talking about Mexican teams, these teams have been around a lot longer than many MLS teams. They have a lot more money that they get to spend on their players. So, signs, my magic 8-ball says that signs still point to the Mexican teams dominating this tournament for quite a while.
Yeah, and I would agree with you on that one as well. Looking also ahead at the world of Major League Soccer, the LA Galaxy, of course, still trying to rebuild, still trying to figure out how they're going to replace guys like Steven Gerrard, Robbie Keane. Of course, still even trying to replace Landon Donovan and David Beckham.
Sure.
At some point, depending on how you look at it. They go out and get a forward, a journeyman in Major League Soccer, Jack McInerney, signing with the club, former Philadelphia Union player.
Former Portland Timbers
player. He's kind of worked his way around the league. Now he heads off to the Galaxy to kind of help shore up the offense. A good, young, attacking player with some experience, has a nose for goal. I don't necessarily know if this changes much for the Galaxy, though, in the sense like, oh, my gosh, when certain players sign, it's like, this is a playoff team or this is a championship team. Jack's not that guy. But to the same extent, though, he still is a very talented player left and right, though.
Yeah, he is a talented player. Portland used him as mainly a substitute, came on. He didn't have as much time on the field as he was hoping for Portland. But here's the one thing to consider, Baxter. Giovanni Dos Santos only has 1 goal on the season.
Wow.
Zard has come back from injury, and since he's come back, he hasn't scored at all. So you do wonder if perhaps Kurt Unfollow is looking at this as more of a bringing some competition into practices. I don't know if we're going to see much time for Jack Mack. At the same time, when other players aren't scoring, why not make a move like this? Why not make a move for a player who, in 5 seasons with Philly, not a lot of goals, but 25 goals with Philadelphia Union.
Right.
Again, last season with the Timbers didn't do much. So he is the type of player that's going to challenge other guys during practice, and perhaps he does get a few starts for LA.
Right, and I think overall, he can only help the team. I don't think he's going to hurt the club, in all honesty, based off of how he plays. He's got, like I said, he's got a nose for goal. He knows what it means to be successful in this league. He's had the experience of playing with a championship caliber team in Portland. Obviously, he was the main focus in Philly for a long time as well, too. So he knows what it's like to have pressure on him. You go to a prestigious club like the Galaxy, there's that certain level of expectation, and I think Jack Mack is going to be able to use his experience and goal-scoring prowess to be an asset to the Galaxy.
Yeah, ultimately, I do think, if we look at this quote from Pete Venegas, who, of course, is the GM for the Galaxy, the key words I see from this is he will give our team valuable depth, Baxter. Talking depth. So that says to you that he's not necessarily being looked at as a starter.
Right.
But
still, having those guys that can come off the bench.
Absolutely, sure.
Alan Gordon made a living scoring goals after the 80th minute, basically.
That's right. That's right. And we do see, one of the things Jack Mack has is a nose for goal. He at least gets in the right place. Not always at the right time, but he gets in the right place. But he does have that ability to sneak in a goal once in a while that you're not expecting anybody to score.
Exactly. We saw him do that all the time with Portland a couple of times last season. When he would, he was the best at garbage goals, basically.
Yes,
he was watching
it.
Chris Wondolowski highlights, I feel like, and was like, oh, I can do that. I can stand 2 feet in front of the goal and be like, oh, boop, there we go. Oh, another goal, woo. But you need those players, though, at the end of the day. So,
you sure do.
And he ultimately proved to be valuable in that asset. Speaking of valuable, also, as we mentioned a couple of months ago, the NWSL signing their new deal with Lifetime to have the game of the week on Lifetime. There's also the games being streamed on the Go90 app as well, too, which I've actually had a chance to use and watch some of the opening weekend action.
Rachel Daly. She's that goal.
Unbelievable. Left-footed. For a player to have that kind of knowledge and skill set to change and then cut and bend it to the far post. It's gorgeous.
Not only that, Baxter, but it was against Casey Short, who's one of the quickest defenders in this league. She got turned around so quickly by Rachel Daly. We saw Rachel Daly have a fantastic preseason.
Yeah, she's been on our show before, too.
That's right. And to see her score the goal that she did, man, you got if you're a Houston Dash fan, you got to love what you saw from Rachel Daly.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you also have to be happy if you are a fan of the league based off of the numbers of viewers for the games on Lifetime. I know you've got them kind of pulled up in front of you, but what took place on the opening weekend? Was it a success, Simon?
Yeah, most people I think would say yes, it was a success. Just looking at the numbers here, 82,000 fans watched the first game on Lifetime TV. If you look back to 2016 when there was a game on Fox Sports 1, that was only 65,000, so a tick up from last year. But you do look at the previous years before that, Baxter, and the numbers were actually higher. 91,000 in 2015, 177,000 in 2014. But 2013, the first year the league kicked off, was only 63,000. So it's in the middle there, and I think you can call that a success. Is it huge numbers? No, but I don't think Lifetime's expecting huge numbers at this point. They're just getting started with this deal.
Right, exactly, and I think ultimately you need to be very happy if you're an NWSL fan. I mean, this is a huge step forward for your clubs as a whole, trying to get their names out more. They've retooled the website as well too. They have an app now as well, which I think
they're doing things right.
This partnership with Lifetime and the A&E networks, I think, is only making the league grow in its 5th season. And I think we've already seen that even just through week 1 as well.
Yeah, I think the one thing you point to that maybe makes you go, is their pregame show had 131,000 viewers.
Yeah, this is an interesting fact when you tell me.
Right, so the fact that it dropped down to 82,000 for the actual game.
Where did those people go?
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Apparently, let's see here, the pregame show was let in by the fantastic blockbuster movie 2 Weeks Notice.
Of course. So people were like, of course, 2 weeks notice. Oh, soccer. Right. This is interesting.
So you do wonder if some of those numbers, which that movie, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you folks, but that movie got 237,000 viewers. So you do got to believe that some people perhaps left the TVs on, left the pregame on, and then
I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that
away.
too. The couple of times I watch TV, I mean, you'll watch a program, like your favorite program, and then all of a sudden you'll kind of get lulled into like at least a little bit of the next show, depending on what it is. I mean, I have no intent of watching Hell's Kitchen or American Ninja Warrior, but sometimes it's on after the programs that I watch. I'm like, you hang around, you watch for 5, 10, 15 minutes as you got like, I got nothing else going on. And then you're like, okay, well, now I need to go do my life again.
What we don't have stats on, and we'll probably never know, is it would be nice to know, of those 82,000 viewers, was there anybody from that first group that saw the pregame show that thought, you know what, I'm going to check out this NWSL thing, see what this is all about?
That's a good question. I don't know, and I'm hopeful that we can maybe find some sort of a number on that.
I don't know.
I mean, how do you know? I mean, the first time, unique viewers, as it were, being like, oh, what is this?
Sure.
I'm Joe from Buffalo. I don't know anything about soccer, but what is this NWSL? I've heard of it, but whatever. And then he watches and becomes a fan. Who knows?
Who knows?
But it was a good game overall, though, too, for fans to keep an eye to watch. The Timbers and the Pride. As well, too, a 2-0 game for the Thorns.
Some people call them the Thorns,
Yeah, well, it depends. Portland, whoever they are, they do things and they win. PT for all of them. Okay?
There you go. PTFC, that's all you got to say.
PTFC, they win no matter what. But speaking of the game and speaking of the league as a whole, as we mentioned, we have 3 great interviews to get to on the show today. We are going to have Christy Holly here join us up next, and then we're going to be joined by Andrew Dykstra of Sporting Kansas City, SCKC. Kansas City needs to get their act together.
No. This is the thing. When you're talking NWSL and MLS, all in the same kick around, Baxter. I feel for you. It's tough to keep all these names straight.
Okay? Like you have FCKC, you have SKC, you have PTFC.
All it means it's a beautiful time to be alive and be an American soccer fan. That you've got all these different clubs that you're trying to keep straight in your head.
Exactly. It's like I would rather have that problem where there's too much to remember instead of not enough.
That's
honestly.
right.
So without further ado, we're going to get to Christy Holly. And like I said, the other 2 interviews are going to come bang, bang right after that as well. And then we'll see you at the end of the show officially to give you our MLS and NWSL predictions for the upcoming week. So without further ado, we present to you Christy Holly from Sky Blue FC. Take a look at the interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub, as we are here at the Attention Era Media Studios. We've got an opportunity to get into a great interview today on the program. I am Baxter Colburn, joined alongside by my good friend
Simon Provan.
There you go. I was trying to give you a bigger intro, fresh from Las Vegas.
I try to stay humble by
My good friend and colleague and the smartest man I've ever met.
There you go.
Simon Provan.
That's how you
Simon
keep me humble, Baxter.
Yes, exactly. We get to do a lot of great interviews on Two Up Front, as many of you know. We had Rose Lavelle on the program a couple of weeks ago. Scott Caldwell was just on as well recently as well. And on today's edition of the show, we have 3 great interviews. We're going to be joined a little bit later on in the program by Sporting Kansas City goalkeeper Andrew Dykstra, and then later on as well by, I guess now technically North Carolina Courage. They just need to figure out where they are. North Carolina Courage forward Jess McDonald. I was like, the New Carolina York Western Flashville Courage.
Something like that.
Those people.
Yeah.
Jess McDonald, she'll be here a little bit later on as well, too. But now we get to talk to a man whose squad, some might say, surprised the Seattle Reign in opening week play with a 1-1 draw. It is a good friend of ours. It is Christy Holly, and he joins us on the shopfutsal.com call-in line now. Christy, a very good day to you, sir. Welcome back to Two Up Front.
Thank you very much. It's great to hear from you guys again.
Absolutely, Christy. It's great to have you back on the program, of course. So let's get right into it. 1-1 draw against the Seattle Reign. Goal coming from Megan Rapinoe, a penalty kick, and then you guys go back a little bit later on, get the penalty kick to draw as well, too. Of course, Seattle, a lot of folks are expecting them to be a contender for the title this year, but what did you see from that game, and how did you think your squad performed in such a high-caliber game right off the bat?
It was definitely a very interesting game. You know, Seattle's one of the hardest places in the league to go, and you know, if someone presented you with a point before the game, you'd most times take it. I thought that you know, there were decent moments within the game by us. I've told the players already that I was somewhat surprised by the quality on the ball that we were able to sustain throughout the game. You know, it's a early season game, and you expect it to be a little bit more of a grind, but we showed some very good moments on the ball. We seemed to defend relatively decent. We definitely had some little bits and pieces we need to tweak that we worked on today and yesterday. But overall, you know, there was a lot of positives to take from it. And, you know, Haley Koppmeyer, in fairness to her, she just got Player of the Week. She was absolutely fantastic. But it's not to discredit Seattle either. They're a very good team, and they're very dangerous going forward.
Yeah, Christy, I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about your defense, because I think it was a bit of a surprise at how well they played, considering Kayleen Sheridan's making her debut in goal. You have 2 rookies in the back there, Kayla Mills, Mandy Freeman, and, of course, Erica Skortsky. Am I saying that right?
Skortsky, yeah.
Skortsky, yeah. You know, a young unit playing so well already together. I imagine that's got to make you very hopeful as a manager for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. There's a lot of positives we can take from it. You know, at one point when the U.S. national U23 team was playing, 3 of the back 4 was actually Sky Blue players. So we're under no illusions. We've got a very, very young team, but we also have what I would consider probably the best female defender to ever play the game, in Christy Rampone. So they couldn't learn from a better role model, someone who guides the line, who controls the line day in, day out, and she's very, very good at communicating the information that these players need to continue to improve on a daily basis. So that's a huge bonus for us. You know, we talk about the youth, but it's so important to not forget what Christy Pearce has done so far in the game and what she will continue to do for the rest of the season. And then behind that back 4, we have Kayleen Sheridan, you know, and someone who we were overly familiar with, and you know, from the moment we knew she was in the draft, that was the goalkeeper we wanted, and that's the goalkeeper we set out to get at that pick. You know, we stayed in close contact. I'm very good personal relationships with her head coach and her assistant coach down in Clemson, so we knew what we were getting. And you know, I think she's going to do a great job in the league. She's still very young. She's got to gain her experience, and she's got to refine her game, but you know, to come in and play the way she did with the level of maturity was something that was very impressive and certainly very pleasing from many different aspects.
Well, speaking of the goalkeepers as well, too, Coach, one name not on this roster this season happens to be Caroline Stanley. She was no longer with the club going into the season. From all accounts, from what we've heard, we haven't really heard much about what transpired for her no longer to be a part of the club. Was it just a personal decision? Was it mutual a release? I heard rumors of a trade at one point as well, too. Can you shed a little bit more light on why Stanley's no longer on the team?
It's definitely a difficult position, the goalkeeping, and you know, we felt that Caroline Stanley did very well for us last year, and we were delighted with the progress she showed and the performances that she put in throughout the season. Ultimately, you can only carry 2 goalkeepers, and you know, we had to sit down, we had to weigh up performances, we had to weigh up many different aspects of the the squad that we were building. And it's certainly not an easy decision, but we felt that at this moment in time, Caroline Casey was the better fit alongside Kaelin Sheridan, and we'll find out over the season if we ultimately made the right decision. But, full credit to Caroline Stanley. She did very well for us last year. And what was her, ultimately she played a few games with Seattle. However, this was her first club that she was able to get, I believe, 10 games in under her belt, and I thought that was probably a great experience for her and something that'll be a huge stepping stone in her career moving forward.
Christy, obviously youth is only something you can work on with time, because that's the way time works. But taking away from this game, what is probably one of the main things you see that you're going to have to work on the rest of the season, or at least for this next match coming up?
Probably goal scoring, because I think we created a lot of opportunities and managed to only score from a set piece. Ultimately that is disappointing, and we spoke to the players about that. We spoke to them at halftime and numerous other times throughout the game. We want to be able to control our own destiny. It's something we have to take out of the hands of officials, out of the hands of any variable conditions that we just don't have control over. So what we do have control over is what we do with the ball when we're in dangerous positions. And I think part of it's mindset, and the other part of it is ultimately just some technical training. But that would be something that we want to continue to focus on, along with many other aspects of the game. We have to continue to work on our defensive shape. We still have to continue to work on how we build the ball in the back and how we transfer it through the thirds. But, it was certainly a pleasing performance, and we know we've got more players coming in who people have heard their names but maybe are not too familiar with what they can do. So.
And just to go off of that too, Coach, as you mentioned with creating chances, 14 total shots last week, 9 of those on frame. Clearly you're headed in the right direction, but that's something that folks have talked about a lot, though. When you talk about Sky Blue FC, there isn't one dominant striker that comes to mind. When you talk about other clubs in NWSL, it's like, oh, of course they have Lynn Williams, oh, they have Keelia Ohai. Sky Blue, sometimes they like, oh, Sky Blue, well, they're a nice club, but they have pretty colors. But even last season we talked to this with you as well. It was about sometimes you guys being that underdog team, and we had players on as well too that were like, some days we don't even know who we are. Some days we beat teams we're quote unquote not supposed to beat. And other times we're losing to teams that we have no business losing to. Do you have a better sense of your identity in 2017?
Absolutely. Compared to where we were this time last year, we're in a much better place. One, as a team of 20 professional players, but also as an organization. I think we spent a lot of time and energy really trying to revamp our image, as you and I discussed many times. Our identity and who we represent is something that is so important to us. It brings a sense of pride and a level of passion that hopefully is unrivaled throughout the league. But beyond that, it was very important for us to establish our identity on the field, the style of play that we were interested in, the way we wanted to win games, how we wanted to achieve success. And I think maybe in years gone by that just wasn't always there. So, it's a process, and we're still very much in the middle of that process. But ultimately where we are right now is we were able to pinpoint players that we felt fit into what we're doing and ultimately can help bring us the best success week in, week out. There's definitely, I was speaking to someone not so long ago about the players we have. Many players are under the radar. They're very, very young, 21, 22, 23-year-old players, and that's fantastic. I'm very, very fortunate as a coach to be able to work with some of these players, but we also have some experienced pros in there who are helping direct this and lead the ship. So it's definitely an exciting time to be part of the club, and there's a lot of growth ahead of us.
And I think that a lot of people would agree with you on that one, Coach, about hey, you have these really young, talented players on your roster.
Absolutely,
we've talked
right.
about that before, too, where it's like they're still just trying to find their name and showcase the talents that they have. Coach, you're going to have that opportunity again to showcase the talent that you have on this club as you take on a team that has arguably the greatest young player in the game right now with Rose Lavelle when you take on the Boston Breakers this upcoming weekend at Boston on Sunday on April 23rd. How do you game plan for somebody so dynamic like Rose Lavelle and just the revamped Boston Breakers team?
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing them. We have seen them a little bit already this preseason, but there's not too much we can read into in terms of that performance. But we know I speak to Matt on a regular basis. They're going to be a challenging team this year, a very good team this year. They're going to cause a lot of issues for teams, and they definitely have many players in that team that have a little X factor. in terms of Rose Lavelle, I mean, we don't want to we don't want to focus all our time and energy onto one player. We definitely have to respect what she can do on the field, but we have a huge amount of confidence in terms of the players that we have, and what our players can do to help nullify her impact, but also the impact of every single player they have. Because, you know, ultimately, if we spend all our time and energy focusing on Rose, they have enough players elsewhere who are exceptionally talented that could do a lot of damage to what we want to do this weekend. So, like I said, we just need to be respectful of that, but focus on ourselves, what we can control and what we can do within the game. And if we put out a performance that matches our potential, you know, we'd be excited about what the outcome would be.
Christy, a question for you. This is an ongoing conversation question for you. We've had Matt Beard on the show. He liked to talk quite a bit about women's college soccer versus the NWSL and the continued conversation of, is women's college soccer preparing these players enough for the professional ranks? You saw some evidence this weekend that clearly can make the argument that it's doing okay in that respect. But would love to get your thoughts. Maybe this is a longer conversation, but would love to get your thoughts on the women's game in college soccer versus the NWSL.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting one. There's many different viewpoints you can take upon this. I can look at our draft picks last year and our draft picks this year, and I think each of them would be ready to go in and play. Are they ready to go in and make sustained impact on the league on a regular basis? I'm not too sure about that just yet. You know, we definitely had Leah, Rocky, and Erica do it last year. I mean, Erica played every moment but 7 last year, and I thought she did exceptionally well. Mm-hmm. Was she physically ready for it? I don't think so. Neither was Rocky, and neither was Leah. So this year with the players coming in, we have to be mindful of that, and we have to respect it. But I think what the college game does is it's the players that go to the top colleges ultimately have a better opportunity to try and make the next level. And there's some exceptionally talented coaches at the college game who understand what it takes and have a track record of producing professional players. But I think as time goes on, and with the strength of the NWSL going from strength to strength, the gap between college soccer and pro soccer might become a little bit bigger. The quality within college soccer has been and always will be very good. It's just a question of can it keep that gap to a minimum as the NWSL evolves. And I guess ultimately that's what we're seeing with the decision by Mallory Pugh and maybe other players to try and forgo their college career. I personally, I think there's not enough money in the women's game just yet for the players to give up on a fantastic education. But, we also have to look at what's developmentally right for them as soccer players. So it's quite a complex one. And I'm not too sure what side of the fence I want to sit on, but I definitely think that there's exceptionally talented coaches within the college game that have a track record of producing players ready to play in the NWSL. And I'm sure they're talented enough and strong enough to evolve as the league evolves to continue to keep that gap at a minimum.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that does get lost in the conversation is that the NWSL is still pretty young. So this may even be a conversation that's a little premature right now. As you had said, Christy, yourself, some of these women playing in college, they're getting full rides. And in that respect, you could argue that they're making more money with their college scholarships than they would be in the NWSL.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with that.
As I said, I think this conversation that it's a good one to have. It's a healthy one to have, yes. but perhaps it's just too early in the game yet. No pun intended.
Yeah, right. Exactly in that regards. But Christy, unfortunately, we got to let you run. But we appreciate you taking the time to join us today on Two Up Front. We wish you the best of luck, of course, as you guys take on Boston this on Sunday. And we look forward to having you back on the program in a couple of weeks or a couple of months or even tomorrow. Why don't you just come back? Just come back every day. Be a guest host for us.
No problem at all. My pleasure, lads. And thanks very much for having us on there.
Absolutely.
And, I'm looking forward to you letting everybody know about Sky Blue being your favorite team. I appreciate that.
Just waiting for the package in the mail with our jerseys and official gear, Christy, any time. But
I thought it already arrived, but not a problem.
oh, perfect.
Because we can be bribed. We're not ashamed.
We can be. We're more than willing to. Everybody has a price, Christy. But we appreciate you swinging by, sir, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, thank you very much.
Not a problem. Best of luck, lads. Take care.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. There goes Christy Holly on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Great to hear from him. Great for everything that we've got going on. We've got more exciting action, of course, coming up for you if you're watching the Two Up Front show in its entirety. If not, that'll do it for this interview here for Christy Holly, for those of you that were watching here on Facebook Live with us. Remember, you can find us traditionally on Wednesdays from 10 to 11 a.m. Central Time live on the Brew Sports Network. Just go to Brew Sports on Facebook and like them there, and you can find out when we're on air. Go to their website, brewsportsnet.com, to get all of our past episodes. And, of course, you can listen to our show on Spreaker.com, iTunes, and iHeartRadio as well if you want to engage with the show that way, of course.
Yeah, you can also find our own Facebook page, Two Up Front, obviously, in that search bar. You can check us out on Twitter as well, at Two Up Front Soccer. He's at Baxter Colburn. I'm at Simon Provan.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. We will see you, if you're hanging around for the rest of the show, in just a moment for the next interview. If not, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. This has been a special interview from Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub here at the Attention Era Media Studios. Have a good rest of your day. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special interview here on Two Up Front, presented by Three Lions Pub here at the Attention Era Media Studios. I am Baxter Colburn. No Simon Provan for this specific interview. If you're watching the show, you obviously know that Simon was on the interview before me, and he'll be on the interview after this one as well, too. But every once in a while, we get this opportunity to interview a bunch of different people for Two Up Front, and sometimes the interviews all happen to line up at the same time. So we've obviously had one great interview already. We've got this one that we're just about to get to. We've got one more after this as well, too. So there's a lot of great stuff you're not going to want to miss, so make sure you hang tight for those. But we've got a great interview to bring somebody back that has been on Two Up Front before in the past. A man that plays goalkeeper, spent some time out at DC United, was the backup for Bill Hamid for a little while as well, and got some valuable playing time out there as well. And then now he finds himself playing for the club Sporting Kansas City, who is one of two teams in all of Major League Soccer right now that have yet to register a loss this season. It is goalkeeper Andrew Dykstra, and he joins us now here on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Andrew, a very good day to you, sir. How are you today?
Very well. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, Andrew. It's great to have you back on Two Up Front. First and foremost, so you've changed addresses since the last time we talked, Andrew. Last time we talked, you were suiting up for DC United. Now you find yourself at Sporting Kansas City. You signed a one-year deal with SKC. Talk to me a little bit about how that deal transpired and your thoughts when you found out that you were leaving DC United to head to Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, it was kind of a long off season for me. DC declined my option, which was kind of expected after a back surgery I had last March. And then, the number 3 had shown for DC United and proved that he could kind of stand in. And, that I was expecting a boost in salary as well. So all the stars kind of aligned for DC to turn my option down. We were in talks and trying to find a new club. And before the end of the year, I had asked DC United to loan me out to the Richmond Kickers. So I got about 8 or 9 games with them, including a playoff game, just to kind of prove to DC that I was fit and to prove to my next club, should there have, the situation occur, that I was healthy and ready to keep on playing and continue my career.
So when sorry, not to jump in on it real fast. I mean, how are you feeling, I guess, after the back surgery now? I mean, something like that. You were out for, maybe at least on paper, you were out 10 to 12 weeks, but how did you feel physically after that time had passed?
It took a long time. I mean, to be honest, so surgery was last March. I probably didn't feel like myself until preseason of this year, sometime in January. I still can't. So it was a microdiscectomy in my back, which had damage on the nerve that runs through my spine.
Wow.
So, yeah, I still can't feel my last 2 toes on my right foot.
Wow, okay.
I've got a feeling that they're probably going to be that way for a long time. But in terms of the strength and getting the nerve function for the muscle function back, that came along. Yeah, we hit the off season, and all I did was try to strength train and do goalkeeper work to improve where I needed to and help the nerve. And yeah, out of the blue one day after training, I was actually out with Nick DeLeon, doing some shooting drills and just kind of, passing the time. And I got a call that Kansas City might be interested in picking me up. And thankful to, a recommendation by our physical therapist at DC and, the games that I played with Richmond, I made the decision easier for Kansas to pick me up. But yeah, it was a little out of the blue, but I was happy to continue my career. And we actually had 2 kids in August. We had twin boys.
I can tell.
So, yeah, they're in the back crying, but yeah, to be somewhere a little bit more affordable as well has been great for my family.
So talk to me now, I guess, from a longevity perspective here, Andrew, because for those that know, that are following SKC and following your career, you're not starting right now for Sporting Kansas City. You haven't been a part of the 6 games that they've played thus far. You're early 30s. You just come off a back surgery like this. Has the R word started to trigger into the back of your mind just quite yet, or are you still not even remotely thinking about that?
Unfortunately for me, it's kind of popped up once in a while. I had there was an issue with like a head related issue in 2012 that I thought I had to retire, and I had a neurosurgeon tell me I needed to retire. And then I had another one tell me I shouldn't, and then
and you're like, I like that opinion better. I'm gonna go for that opinion. I'm gonna keep playing.
Once I got the okay, I looked into some specialists and had an angiogram to take a look at my brain, and with a microscope actually. So they said, then they said, this isn't anything big. There's guys in the NFL that have this, and they ended up clearing me. So I had to face it then. I had to face it when I popped my Achilles. So it wasn't the first time. But to be honest, the whole age thing is kind of never really factors in for me. This is supposed to be a goalkeeper's prime.
True.
And I've always, I've always been a multi-sport athlete. I've always been, big, fast, strong, quick. So for me, it's like unless what makes me, the athlete and the goalkeeper I am go away, I'm always going to consider coming back. So, it kind of popped up in my brain, but I said to my wife, soccer hasn't been any type of a burden on us as a family, and I've done it for 8 years, and I said I owe it to myself to at least give it one more shot and see what happens. Even if I came back and this year was a total disaster, then I would have known.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, even though you haven't been on the field yet, though, Sporting Kansas City has still been a positive influence to give you that opportunity to get back into shape again, of course, as well, too. But do you, I'm sure this is a foolish question to ask, but do you miss being the #1 goalkeeper as you got the opportunity, of course, when you were down in Richmond? Of course, you started some time there in D.C. as well, too. But have you been told by Peter Vermees, is it a constant goalkeeper battle, or is the #1 set for right now and you're just there as insurance, just in case?
It doesn't matter who you are. It's always going to be an uphill battle when you come into a new place where the starter's established, because it's kind of his job to lose and your job to prove yourself. And it takes time. It takes a lot of work. And Tim's been great for the club, and he's been great this year so far. So, I'm just trying to just do my job, and when the opportunity presents itself, step in and do what I can for the club. And so far I think I'm pretty on track. And I actually got my first game. So it's very unique here because they have the Swope Park Rangers that are share facilities, have an excellent stadium, excellent following, very professional organization for the USL level. And the way that they manage it between the first team and Swope is unbelievable. It should be the gold standard for for the rest of the league to follow. So they used our other goalkeeper, and they've used me last Saturday in my first game. And their beliefs at Swope are the same as Sporting. They want to play out of the back and use the goalkeeper, and the standard is set very high. So when I go to Swope, I'm using my feet out of the back, and the same ideas that we have on the first team. So I have some video now and some proof to Peter Vermees and my goalkeeper coach and my teammates that I'm progressing, and I'm fit should they want to use me.
Last question here from me, Andrew, before we let you run. One soccer question, one non-soccer question for you. But first and foremost, what's it been like to see the resurgence of guys like Benny Feilhaber and Dom Dwyer on the team this year, both scoring goals, both performing at just a very high level? And then my other side question for you is, I know you're a Detroit Lions fan. The draft is coming up in a week. What do you think the Lions are going to do with that, with their first pick that they've got coming up?
All right. Well, starting with Benny and Dom, I mean, I can't speak enough about the players on this team and the standard that's set and the ability of these guys. Benny's an absolute engine for this club, and going forward, he's smart. He picks out the right passes. He's teaching younger guys. It's great to see. And Dom. Talk about a guy with a hammer of a leg. Seeing shots from him every day is unbelievable.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He's proven he can get it done in games now, and no, it's great. I'm not sure of Dom's age, but some of the older guys in the team are really setting the pace and setting the standard for this club. It's great to see. And then as far as the Detroit Lions,
I had to ask, because you're a self-proclaimed Lions fan, and you posted pictures of your newborn sons on social media in Lions gear as well. I'm like, oh boy, those poor kids don't even have a chance.
Yeah, at least they're not Cleveland Brown fans.
True, it could be much worse. That is very true.
But I've heard rumors that they're going to try and draft another wide receiver or something like that, and I don't know. I've always been skeptical of the secondary, so I'm kind of hoping for somebody to pick something up like that. But I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're all right. They're a good team and well rounded, and it's their management and their coaching staff is great. So I don't know. They need to figure out the one real hole, and in my opinion, it's the secondary. But that's my non-professional opinion.
As someone that's a fan of the Green Bay Packers, Andrew, I understand the secondary issues as well too. So I'm right there in the same boat with you as that one. But Andrew, I appreciate you stopping by the show today here on Two Up Front. We certainly look forward to seeing not only what you do for the USL side for Swope, but also for SKC the remainder of the season. And we'd love to have you back on the show again at some point, if not to talk soccer, to make fun of each other for the teams we support in professional football. So I appreciate you stopping by. Enjoy your day, and thanks for taking the time today.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon. There goes Andrew Dykstra on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. This has been a very special interview here on Two Up Front. I appreciate all of you tuning in as well. We'll see you guys on the remainder of the show coming up in just a moment. Thanks for tuning in. To help you pick out the strawberries or whatever you're trying to pick out there as you're going along with your Target trip.
Yeah, no worries.
But we're excited to have you back on the show, Jess. We want to talk first and foremost, of course, about I just want to get your thoughts about being back in North Carolina. We'll get to the games and all that fun stuff in a moment, but kind of a dream come true for you, I think, from what all accounts, from what I've heard, to be back in North Carolina, where you spent some of your very pivotal years. What's it like to be playing professional soccer now for a team representing your state of North Carolina?
I think it's absolutely incredible, and I think it's just an incredible opportunity, especially for my team, because I think at the end of the day that we truly deserve to be, of all places, be moved here. And it's such a soccer fan environment, and it's a huge soccer community. And I just think us surrounding ourselves with such a great fan base, a place where they know the game of soccer, I think it's just a comfortable move for us, and I just think it's just really cool overall.
Yeah, you won a championship, obviously, in college with University of North Carolina, and now you have the opportunity to do that with North Carolina Courage, or NC Courage at the professional level. You won the championship with Western New York Flash last year. Your team basically moved, including your coach. And as you said, Baxter, we'll get to this past weekend's game. But how are you guys feeling about possibly doing that odd thing of repeating as NWSL champions, but under a different name?
I think that we're just one of those teams that we're just trying to take one game at a time. Even though we are the defending champs, we try to not see ourselves that way because that's kind of the chip that we had on our shoulder last season. People didn't expect much from us, so we just came from that underdog sort of mentality, and that's kind of the same mentality that we want to have this season. We took one game at a time, we took one step at a time, and that's sort of our mentality, is improving as a team on and off the field and just kind of learning from each game and just improving overall throughout the season. So I think that's just kind of where our heads are at. Of course, it would be great to win a championship, but at the end of the day, we're actually not even looking that far ahead. We're looking towards Saturday right now. And then once Saturday's over, we'll be looking towards the following weekend. So that's kind of where we're at mentally as a team, is just kind of improving game by game and day by day in and out of training.
And to be fair, though, you guys do have history on your side. I mean, FC Kansas City repeated NWSL championships early on in the inception of the NWSL. So it's not like it's never been done before and you have to worry about chasing history or any of that craziness that, the media likes to throw up as well, too. But so that to an extent, that does kind of feel like help calm the nerves. But I do want to look back at this weekend as a whole. Your team does get the victory in the championship rematch. I feel like it was horribly underpromoted, in all honesty. Usually when you have like the rematches in the NFL of the Super Bowl, people are freaking out about this is revenge. I heard no revenge, talks at all coming from the Spirit or from the national media at all too. But how did you ladies view this game going into it? Was it just a season opener, like cool, or were you like, I remember the last time we played these guys, this was an insane battle down to the very bitter end, and Lynn saved us, thankfully.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what was the thought going into this game this last weekend against Washington?
Yeah, well, for some people, it was like, wow, we're playing the Spirit the first game, and it's funny because we just came off of playing them in the championship. So only some of us sort of had that mentality. It's like, okay, this is kind of a vindictive sort of game for them, but whereas for the other half of us, it was like, this is the first game of the season. We're still the same team as last year, whereas Washington Spirit is kind of starting fresh. They almost have a whole new roster this year. And so that was sort of the advantage that we wanted to take in this first game. And so some of us had that, okay, it's a vindictive championship game again, or it's just the first game of the season and let's just take it from there. So it was sort of like a back and forth kind of thing in the locker room. So it was just really cool to sort of spark that energy regardless of, whatever person's mentality was going into the game.
Jessica, looking at the stats from that game is kind of crazy. Possession especially. Washington actually owned possession against you guys, yet you guys had 21 shots, 9 of those on goal compared to Washington's 4 shots on goal. Obviously, a big part of this was Stephanie LeBay having a huge game for Washington.
Absolutely.
But
Holy cow.
But 8 saves and some of those, and one of those against a great header that you had, and her just taking it right out of the goal. But you guys use a diamond formation in this game. Obviously, a lot of this was just moving that ball around quickly. Is that what we can expect to see the rest of the year with NC Courage?
Yeah, definitely. You guys will definitely continue to see a lot of opportunities being made by us because we're such an attacking-minded kind of team. We want to go forward as much as possible. Whatever opportunity that we see to go forward, that's what we try and take advantage of. And I think their goalkeeper had such an incredible game. Like, wow, her athleticism and even my header goal or my header shot.
So you're looking like it should have been a goal. So you're mentally just like, come on, Steph, let that one go in.
Exactly. It just kind of took away my fame for a second. But she had such an incredible game that, we just kept taking it at her, sort of testing her. That's the word I'm looking for. That's all we want to do with these goalkeepers in this league is continue to test them, because you never know when they're going to make a mistake. And I mean, even if we get the ball in frame and they make a great save, that's great for them, because that's sort of the competition that we need. But I think something you guys will definitely expect from us is a lot of shots on goal and a lot of attacking plays and sort of keeping people at the edge of their seats this season.
Well, speaking of goals, the one goal that was scored this game came from McCall Zerboni. And, you know, how fitting for a player who's played in both the WPS, the NWSL. She's played with several different teams. Basically, a representation of women's professional soccer all in one player there, scoring NC Courage's first goal ever. How fitting was that, Jessica?
Absolutely fitting. And it was absolutely incredible. Of all people on our team to score that goal, I think that McCall absolutely deserved that. And it was crazy because she called me off that ball right in time, because I was going to go for it, and she called it, and obviously she had a better opportunity on goal than I did. And the fact that it went in, you know, it just sent an exciting chill throughout our squad and throughout our organization. So I think for her, of all people, she truly deserved that goal, and I just thought it was world class.
What is with everybody stealing goals from you, Jess? Steph robs you of a header goal. McCall steals your shot as well, too.
I'm trying to be nice about it, too, so it's okay.
Well, speaking of goals, obviously, last season, Jess, you were able to get on the score sheet a lot of times. Your counterpart, Lynn Williams, also was the talk of the NWSL last season. MVP, of course, among other things. The national team call-ups for both of you ladies as well, too. What have been the conversations between you and Lynn in the off-season and after 1 week as well, too, to try to emulate and, you know, duplicate that success that you had last season this year?
Yeah, so it's funny because we actually just had that talk probably about a week or two ago, that we need to kind of get back in sync together again. And the fact that we've been in and out of camps throughout the off-season, it's really cool to continue to get used to each other on the field. And, you know, if she needs to communicate something with me, like, hey, maybe position here instead of here, and vice versa for me, our communication is just, it's top notch right now. And for us to be in sync this season, like last season, I think that we will create a lot of opportunities for each other. And hopefully one of us will get MVP and Golden Boot again. If it's not me, then I'm crossing my fingers it's her. So I just think it's just going to be a pretty cool season for the both of us to play together again.
Well, speaking of playing together again, obviously you know that first game of the season was, you know, finished the way it is. You get the shutout, you got the first goal. Now you look ahead to what lies in front of you. So you go from one rematch, where of course with all the hype, now you go play a team like Portland, who, as everybody knows, is always incredibly talented with stars like Ali Long and others on that squad. How do you mentally prepare from going from this, you know, rematch of a hyped up game to now playing arguably the best team in the league from a player personnel across the board?
I think it's more excitement. This is one of those games that we look forward to every season, whether if it's playing in front of their fan base or our own. They're just obviously an incredible team, and they're an incredible team to play against. So the battle between the two of us would just be an absolute incredible thing, especially for the fans and for each organization overall. And I think because they are so talented, we are a great team that can match up with theirs. And so we'll just see who the better team is come this weekend.
Yeah, similar lines as you were saying, Baxter. I mean, this is a loaded team. Tobin Heath, of course, being one of those players as well.
You can keep going down the roster.
Right. But the great thing is this is also North Carolina Courage's home opener.
Yeah.
First time ever. Any special events that the club is planning that you're aware of, Jessica?
Not that I know of. We've had like some video shoots, some photo shoots for the home opener, but anything past that, I'm not too sure about, but I'm sure there are going to be a few surprises there.
How excited are you? I mean, some people would say, what a stupid question, but I do have to ask you again.
It means a lot more, though. Like when you're asking someone like Jess who has the history, it means more.
Exactly. So how excited are you for this weekend, Jessica?
Extremely, because we get to see what our fan base is like, first and foremost. We get to see what it's like to play on such a beautiful grass field in front of our fans and in front of our family, and playing at home specifically. We don't have to travel. So I think just getting comfortable in our own hometown, I just think it's just really cool and extremely exciting. I mean, it's just going to be an exhilarating experience, I believe.
Last question from me here, Jess, before we let you run. So one of the last times we talked to you, you were just beginning your stints with the national team for a couple of different camps. You've had the opportunity now to go through a couple of different camps with Jill Ellis, get some international experience as well, too. What have been some of your biggest takeaways at the international level, getting to play around, world-class players on a consistent basis for a couple of weeks? What did you learn? How do you feel? Is there talks about coming back again soon? What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I think overall it's such a great experience playing with the best players in the world. The cool thing about this squad is that each and every person on this squad will give you some feedback. Hey, Jess, instead of taking this touch, take this touch. Like, you have so many more other options, because playing at that level, you feel as if like you can't even hear yourself think, because everything's just going so fast. And so for you to sort of think before you make a play, that helps you improve as a player. And I think that's something I've definitely learned, and playing under Paul Riley has definitely helped prep me for an environment like that. And so I just think it's just been a really amazing experience overall. And of course, I'm learning something day by day, going at full speed all the time. Just trying to think ahead of the play is just one thing I'm definitely going to have to improve on, and just taking any kind of feedback I can from anyone on the team and coaching staff as well.
Jessica, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. What a quintessential NWSL interview, Baxter. Here we are talking to Jessica McDonald while she's shopping for her son. It says so much about this league and the players in it, and people like yourself. And congrats on a great year. God's blessings on the coming year as well, Jessica.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Absolutely, Jess. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
No problem. Have a good one.
Yep, you as well. There goes Jess McDonald on the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Great to hear from her. Great to get the insight from her as well, too. We do have official confirmation she did buy the Power Ranger sheets for her son as well, too. So definitely, not only is she a smart decision maker on the field, but she's a very smart decision maker off the field as well, too, when it comes to outfitting her son's bedroom. But she's just one of those great people, just one of those people you look at. When someone were to ask me, what is the NWSL, I would say, look at Jess McDonald.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, going back to my comment before, for the fact that she knows she has the interview, yet she's out shopping because she has to, and you don't get that in many other leagues, and to me that's pretty exciting, because it does show how down to earth these players still are. And will continue to be.
Right, exactly. I mean, very rarely do you find someone in this league that is very full of themselves and be like, oh, I don't have that kind of time for you, or I'm not going to take a call while I'm shopping and doing these other things because I have a life. Like, that's great, though. They're trying to grow the league, and these are ways to do something like that.
And one of the things, too, that you'd see, and of course some people will say, well, or argue that, well, you need to have some personality in the league, like a Dennis Rodman, for an old throwback name there. But you saw Joanna Lohman go down this week, and 11 minutes into that game we were talking about against the Courage. You saw how many players from other teams reached out to her on Twitter and get healthy, Joanna, praying for you, whatever it may be. I guess you do see that in some leagues, but in this league itself, there's so much more of a connection no matter what team you play on between all the players.
Exactly, and I completely agree with you on that one. And I just think that the one thing you hear from so many of these ladies is that this is a family. Like, my teammates aren't just my friends or my teammates, but like I've got friends on other teams as well too, and we are just this one big soccer family. And I think because they're all in it together, they're all trying to
have
compete.
to be. You look at the CBA negotiations that just happened; they have to be in it together, because there's a lot of players not making a lot of money in this league.
Right. I completely agree with you on that one. So we appreciate you guys stopping by to check out the interview today, of course, with Jess McDonald. We've got a lot more exciting action for you, of course, on 2 Up Front. Make sure to find us on Brew Sports on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 Eastern. You can also go to our website, 2upfrontsoccer.com, the number 2, and also find us on the Brew Sports Network, brewsportsnet.com, on their Facebook page as well.
Yeah, find us on Facebook, 2 Up Front Soccer, or you can find us on Twitter at 2 Up Front Soccer. You can find him at Baxter Colburn. You can find myself at Simon Provan.
All right, for Simon Provan, I'm Baxter Colburn. Thanks for tuning in to this interview with Jess McDonald from MC Courage. We'll see you guys next time on 2 Up Front. And welcome back to 2 Up Front as we continue to roll along with the program. First of all, 3 amazing interviews that we just had the opportunity to see. A very special thanks to Christy Holly, Andrew Dykstra, and Jess McDonald as well, too. Just 3 very humble but also hardworking individuals that it was just great to hear their insights about everything that they've got going on in their life right now.
Yeah, it's always great to have the special guest on that we do have. We're so privileged, Baxter, to get the guests that we do. And, so thank you to all of them. And thank you to all of you who sit here and whether we have the interviews out early or whether you watch them now as part of the total show. Thank you to all of you for supporting too up front.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it is time to get to our predictions, our MLS and NWSL predictions, which are brought to you by Red Line Pub. We've been in high demand, apparently,
We
Simon.
have, yeah. A couple of people tweeting out and saying, hey, we need to know your NWSL predictions. So here you go.
Yeah, I mean, might as well, I guess, right? So we'll start with MLS, and then we'll close with NWSL, and then we'll be out of here as well for the rest of the show. So one game taking place on Wednesday evening tonight, of course, the New England Revolution taking on the San Jose Earthquakes. New England's coming off of a 3-0 loss against the Chicago Fire in Chicago. I should have known better, Simon. New England has notoriously been horrible in Chicago, regardless of how good or bad the Fire are. Should have just known. Yet I was like, the Revs are going to be fine, and they get blown out. Schweinsteiger scores a goal, and then Nemanja Nikolic scores 2 goals as well, too. New England can't find which way is up, and they lose. I honestly think they lose tonight at home against San Jose.
Well, I'm going to actually take New England in this game, Baxter. They're undefeated in 6 games at home.
True.
So,
once again, not going to be mad if that happens.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm going to take the Revs. They're going to be hungry to come back from that 3-0 loss to Chicago, but Chicago looking really good since they got Schweinsteiger and Nikolic in there, working well together, Baxter. But
it pays to have hardcore international experience on your team.
It does. So don't discredit that loss to Chicago too much on the part of the New England Revolution. I think a lot of credit actually goes to the Chicago Fire for that. But I'm taking New England in this game.
Sounds good. Toronto hosting Chicago. That game happening before the weekend kicks off. TFC is at home. Chicago, of course, as we just mentioned, coming off of a huge victory. Toronto last week also getting a victory in that game against Columbus.
Oh, they lost.
Or, I'm sorry, losing.
Lost.
You're right. Sorry, 2-1 against Columbus. So looking to rebuild against what's really been a surprising Columbus Crew team as well, but we'll talk about them in just a little bit.
Sure.
TFC at home against a surging Chicago. What do you think?
I have got TFC in this one, not so much because of TFC, but Chicago does not do very well on the road. Now, that stat could be completely skewed when it gets down to it, Baxter, but they have lost 15 of their last 17 on the road. So I am taking Toronto FC in this one.
You know, and you think that I would learn at this point when to stop predicting, but because of how Chicago has been doing, I'm going to use this as my upset pick if there is such a thing. I mean, Toronto on paper is the better team, but of course Chicago, I think statistically, is the better team right now. So I think I'm going to go with Chicago in this game as my upset for the week.
All right.
Philly and Montreal. Philly playing host. Listen, Montreal, Piatti's back. It's scary. I think Montreal goes on the road and gets a very much-needed 3 points in the Eastern Conference, which we already know is always wide open, especially with the drop of Atlanta recently as well, too. I think Montreal gets the win on the road.
Yeah, Philadelphia just not looking good at all. No cohesion on that team right now, Baxter.
It's sad, honestly.
It is sad. So I agree with you. We saw how Piatti revives a Montreal Impact team, and I am definitely taking Montreal in this one.
Houston and San Jose. Houston doing still very well the last couple of games. Obviously, they struggled a little bit last week. San Jose, this will be their second game that they'll be playing in a couple of days. It's down in Houston. I know San Jose is used to the heat, but at the same time, I think Houston is out for blood right now, especially playing a team that has already played a game earlier in the week. I think Houston is able to get the victory despite some of the injuries that are still lingering for the squad.
Yeah, surprising draw with Minnesota United. Minnesota perhaps shoring up their defense a little bit better these days.
About time.
In this Dominic Kinnear Cup, as I like to call it, because he coached San Jose, then moved with them to Houston, and then went back to the rebirth of San Jose. I am taking Houston in this one, though, Baxter.
Taking Houston in this one. Okay, very intriguing in that one for sure. So we both have Houston for the victory on that one. Portland and Vancouver. So last weekend, Vancouver, they did a 2-1 victory against Seattle, courtesy of Freddie Montero and crew stepping it up. Vancouver, they seem to be the real deal, but I've also been on the Vancouver side of fandom for the last couple of seasons, and I've always been sorely disappointed. I mean, Portland, as we know, is a very good team, but they did come off a 1-0 loss.
Yeah, they've been slipping up a little bit here, Baxter. Not getting the results that they want in their last 3 or 4 games. I know they snuck a win in there, but draw, a loss to Sporting Kansas City. Vancouver looked really good against Seattle. Freddie Montero, as you said, scoring 2 goals.
And this is Cascadia Cup time.
It is Cascadia
things
Cup.
Get elevated when it comes to Cascadia.
But because it is Cascadia Cup, Portland is at home. I'm taking the Portland Timbers on this one.
And I would agree with you on that one, too, honestly. I mean, I think Vancouver has the tools to pull an upset in this one. But Portland, as you mentioned, at home, it is Cascadia. They just lost only by 1 goal. They had a good showing in the game. I think that they're going to come out hot and heavy, but it's not going to be without conceding at least 1 or 2 goals from Vancouver.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The Revolution now playing, of course, over the weekend against DC United. Of course, a bitter rivalry, as some might say. I never really get the rivalry, maybe because I don't live out there. I'm like, why are DC United the Revolution rivals? But again, I think it's a location sort of a thing because they're so close to each other.
Location.
Understand that for sure. Revs are at home. I am going to go with your Revolution thing. And they're like, oh, they're great at home. So once again, I'm probably totally off the rails on this one. But the Revs at home against the DC United team that got destroyed 2-0 last week against the Red Bulls. I think the Revs offensively are in a better position than the DC United defense. Kai Kamara has been scoring goals. Agudelo, Kellen Rowe playing that left back position. Still seems to be working somehow for this Revs team. They're going to put it together and beat DC United at home.
Yeah, you said it all.
Okay.
New England.
There we go. I love when that works for us. We're like, yeah, good. All right, the Red Bulls playing Columbus. Now, this is an interesting game because these teams have met numerous times in the postseason over the last couple of years. Columbus, as we mentioned, they beat TFC 2-1 last week. The Red Bulls, they beat DC United 2-0, of course, last week as well, too. So both of these teams, offensively, everything seems to be clicking right now. Bradley Wright Phillips, as we mentioned, I believe 2 weeks ago on our show, signing a new multi-year contract with the Red Bulls to remain as a designated player, to become a designated player.
Become one, right.
So this is at Red Bull Arena, traditionally a hard place to win in, but New York has been a little sketchy this season. I have not been fully sold on the Red Bulls early on.
No, and the one thing that you see with Columbus is Miram, Kamara, both up there with 4 goals each, so the club likes to spread their goals around.
Honestly, especially from Justin Miram.
Absolutely, but you also have other players in there too. You know, Ethan Finley's got a goal on the season. Higuain has a goal on the season.
Trapp has been hanging around in the midfield.
Right, so Columbus likes to spread it around. I think they have a little bit more of a consistent style than the Red Bulls. I don't know if you can call it an upset, Baxter, but I'm going to take the Crew on this one.
Okay, sounds good, and I'm going to actually call a draw on this one, my first draw of the week. FC Dallas and Sporting Kansas City is a unique game because neither team have lost a game this year.
Right.
So SKC is 3-0-3, FC Dallas is 3-0-2. Dom Dwyer's been returning to Dom Dwyer status, which I think should send shivers among every goalkeeper and defense across the league because when Dom Dwyer is hot, virtually nobody can stand in his way, especially for a guy that's trying to shore up his potential resume to become a U.S. men's national team player as well, now that he has a citizenship. I mean, Bruce Arena in general would probably be a fool not to select him at some point, but to make it at the international level, you have to perform at the club level. I think SKC continues to stay undefeated, and they beat FC Dallas down in Dallas.
All right, I'm going to take it the other way, Baxter. I think FC Dallas is going to continue their winning ways. They've only played 5 games in the season
right.
Because of the Champions League games. So they've actually played more games than most other teams in the league this season. You see
more sharp.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So you're seeing, especially again in that midfield with some of their newer transactions that they've had in the offseason, those DP players, both in the midfield and up top.
Yeah.
I see FC Dallas at home winning this one.
That would be, yeah, I mean, it's very hard to say which way or another you would fall on something like this because both teams are very talented.
Yeah, the one wild card is it looks like Jesse Gonzalez will be the starter. We do see that Jesse once in a while makes a bad decision.
Gaps, yeah.
Exactly. So that is something Sporting Kansas City could take advantage of. But
True.
if Gonzalez has a top game like he's capable of having, FC Dallas wins this. So I'm sticking with FC Dallas.
Sounds good. Moving on to RSL versus Atlanta. Listen, Atlanta has been on a downward spiral, unfortunately, since about maybe week 3 or week 4, since their big man got hurt,
That's
Joseph
right.
Martinez. RSL at the same time, they beat Colorado 2-1 last week. Atlanta only lost 2-1 against Montreal last week, but Atlanta, they're on the road again. RSL coming off of a much nitty-gritty victory against the Rapids. I think RSL has the pieces and the experience still that they start to show their continued colors of being a very good club. It's not going to be a pretty game, but I think RSL still ultimately wins this game.
Well, and the wild card here to me is Mike Petke.
True.
Undefeated under him, 2 wins in a row. And I agree with you, Baxter. I think they go 3-0 under Coach Mike. And RSL takes the win.
The game that really has me surprised, and not only surprised, but only just questioning who to choose, is NYCFC versus Orlando. And Orlando has continued to surprise you and I. I think I've never tweeted and texted more about Orlando in my life than I have these first 7 or 8 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Because we continuously said this in the preseason. This isn't going to be a good team. This isn't going to be a good team. Kaká goes down week 1. This isn't going to be a good team. And they keep finding ways to win and be dangerous.
Finding ways to win at home, though, Baxter.
True.
Different story than being on the road. The one road game they had was a loss this year, so they are 4-0 at home. They're traveling up to New York City. I'm going to call NYCFC on this one. Smaller field. New York has not been that impressive, but until Orlando can show better on the road than they did in their one road game, I got to take New York City at home.
I'm going to take a draw on this one because I think NYCFC, they did just beat Philly 2-0. David Villa scoring from midfield because, scoring in front of 18 yards is too cliche, apparently. I mean, he's an incredible player, and I think the fact of his talent has been everything that NYCFC has wanted this year. I still think there's some question marks for NYCFC on the defensive side. They're still figuring out the goalkeeper side of things as well, too. I think Orlando, because they've had all this, late success and just a lot of success in the air, too.
Sure,
a lot of their goals
sure.
have come from the air. If Kyle Laring can get on the back end of a couple of crosses, I think that they could either draw or maybe steal the game, but I think it's going to ultimately end in a draw because both teams are still trying to figure themselves out a little bit more, especially on the road for Orlando and at home for NYCFC.
Sure.
LA and Seattle, the second to last MLS game we talk about, and then, of course, Minnesota, Colorado. LA 2-1 loss to Orlando, as we mentioned, and then Seattle a 2-1 loss to Vancouver. Both these teams still looking for relevance and dominance in the Western Conference. Jack Mack, of course, signing, as we mentioned earlier in the show, for the Galaxy. He'll probably get some second-half minutes, I would assume, in this game to get his feet wet, but Seattle, the usual suspects, have yet to really make a massive impact.
Yeah, they had a peak there a little early in the season where they did have that 4-game unbeaten streak, but 3 of those games were draws, and then of course they end up losing to Vancouver, which did surprise a lot of people. Seattle's lost their form a bit. LA's still looking for theirs. The one wild card here, Baxter, is that Seattle tends to be a thorn in LA's side, no matter if it's the playoffs or the regular season. That being said, I'm going to chicken out here and take a draw on this one.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to take the Galaxy on this one at home, but not by much. And then Minnesota United and Colorado. Never thought I'd live in a world where I think that the Loons would draw the Dynamo, and then also go back to face Colorado, who they had success on earlier in the season. They're at home. I'm going to actually take Minnesota for the first time all season long.
I'm right there with you.
I just don't know what to say. I mean, Colorado, of course, losing 2-1 to RSL earlier in Minnesota. If you can score 2 goals against Houston, who started off the season really well, you must be doing something right.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, they're shoring up their defense a bit. Colorado does have Zach McMath in goal because, of course, Tim Howard suspended for 3 games for comments and an altercation that he had to and with a fan.
Foolish.
Yeah, it is foolish, and I know Pablo Mastroeni is saying, well, the league needs to do better with their security. Maybe, but still, you're the one getting paid $6.5 million to play soccer.
Be professional.
Be professional about it. Take it. When you go into a stadium and you're playing with your back to the supporter section, you got to know they're going to be yelling stuff at you.
I mean, he
and
never
I'm
got
not
stuff yelled at
excusing
him when he was in England.
Right.
I guarantee it would probably be worse in England.
Exactly, and I'm not excusing that fans' behavior, but this is the game you're played to play. You're paid to play a game.
Exactly.
Do I have all the facts? No, but the one fact I do know is you're paid to play a game.
Exactly.
So unless it was something incredibly derogatory towards race or whatever you want to say,
right,
perhaps that's a different story. But still, you're being paid to play the game, so be the better person.
Exactly. All right, that concludes our MLS predictions. We now fly over to the NWSL side of things. Week 1 already in the bag. Just to recap, Dash beat the Red Stars 2-0. Thorns 2-0 over the Pride. Spirit losing to the Courage 1-0. Sky Blue and Seattle draw 1-1. And FCKC get goals from the Mamas 2-0 against Boston. We look ahead to this week. This is where it all starts to get interesting. Some interesting matchups. Chicago playing host to FC Kansas City. My big question is, how does this team survive without Amy Rodriguez?
Right. Yeah, Baxter.
They did it for a season last year, so it's not like they don't know what to do, and they still have Sydney Leroux. Let's not forget that Sydney is still a very talented player
and scored
a goal.
And the player we had on our show recently, Shea Groom, had a good game as well.
Exactly.
Chicago, that was the surprise result of the opening weekend. Houston Dash.
You took Chicago to win. I took the Dash to win. Yeah.
And I honestly think Chicago still is one of the teams to beat.
Agreed.
They're going to be at home. FC Kansas City, they're going to be trying to figure out how to deal again without Amy Rodriguez. That was a big surprise for them, obviously. I'm taking the Chicago Red Stars in this one, Baxter.
I'm actually going to go on the opposite side of the fence, and I'm going to take FC Kansas City. I think because they were able to do fairly well last season without Amy Rodriguez, but now you get Sydney Leroux back, plus a very talented Shea Groom, plus the rest of the supporting cast. I think FC Kansas City is still able to capitalize on Chicago, still trying to get over the shock of last week and Rachel Daly highlights flying through their back of their mind as well, too. Just a gorgeous goal.
Yeah,
My
it was.
Gosh.
Yes, it was.
Pride in the Spirit, battle of winless teams down at Orlando City Stadium. Orlando, of course, trying to navigate without Alex Morgan for the first part of the season. They've also gotten rid of Sarah Hagan. They also just got rid of Cami Levin as well, too. Is anybody left in Orlando that's actually talented besides Marta?
Marta, well, Ellie Krieger's there, of
I
course.
suppose, yeah. I mean, Ashlyn Harris.
Ashlyn
as well, I guess, is there
Harris,
too.
yes, yeah.
But I mean, who's going to put the ball in the back of the
Well,
net?
the problem is that you wait until a week before the season before you cut one of your fan favorites and one of your starters, in Sarah Hagan. This team is looking for chemistry. I think Washington could sneak out a win, but Baxter, I got to take a draw on this because, of course, Washington, one of their best players, Johanna Lohman, out for the season with her ACL injury. What an unfortunate injury, Baxter. If you haven't watched, just watch the highlights of the game, and you'll see right before the Courage score their goal, Joanna's pedaling backwards basically and just ends up stepping on her foot wrong, and that's what ends up being the injury there.
It's amazing how quickly the game can change and how much quickly your career can change.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to change my pick. I'm going to take Washington in that I see them actually rallying the troops.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to take a draw on this one just because I think Washington has still a lot to prove. Only registering 5 total shots last week against, I know you were playing against the defending, Courage champions, of course, but still got to do better than 5 shots, and I think Orlando's still trying to figure out their identity with all of these players being gone now and still trying to get the chemistry back together as well. Allie Krieger can't rush the sidelines every single time and shoot a goal. I mean, that's not realistic. And Marta is on the other side of 30. She's only so talented.
That's right. Well, that's part of it as well.
So I call a draw. I call a very underwhelming draw in this game, honestly. The Courage and the Thorns, that's the big game.
Yep.
Game of the week. It's on Go 90. That Pride Spirit game is actually the game on Lifetime, which take it for what it's worth, I guess. Poor choice in my opinion. But what are you going to do? I don't think they probably also expected certain players to be gone at that point either.
That's right.
The Courage and the Thorns, I think you can go one of two ways on this one. You can either pick a blowout for either side, or you can pick a very hard-fought draw. So I guess I don't know.
Here's what I'll tell you.
Undefeated for both teams.
Courage are at home. It's their first home game, and it's not like this is an expansion team. This is a championship team that just changed locations, and to a location that many of these women are very excited to be playing at in North Carolina.
Right.
So as much as the Thorns are stacked with great players, I do see North Carolina taking this game, Baxter. You got Lynn Williams, Jessica McDonald up top. They work together tremendously well. You've got a strong midfield. Look, North Carolina has shown, and as I mentioned in that interview with Jessica McDonald, they like to play that ball quick. They like to play with that diamond midfield, and they do it well. They got to get the ball more in the net, obviously, but who expected Stephanie Lobby to have as great of a game as she had for the Washington Spirit? But I do see North Carolina, fans at their back, first time opening this stadium, or not opening the stadium, but
first
home
time
opener.
Playing there, home opener.
Everything points to North Carolina Courage in this one.
And traditionally, I would agree with you on that one, but it's hard to argue against, as you mentioned, the all-star caliber team that is the Portland Thorns.
Sure.
I mean, they shut out the Pride in week 1 with 2 goals. This team is banging on all cylinders. Allie Long has been a resurgence on the national team. She's taken that down to the club level as well, too. You throw in, of course, the laundry list of high-caliber international players. I think Portland honestly spoils the party for North Carolina, but it still is a
Can't
close
argue
game.
against that.
Rain in the Dash. I think this is the game to watch this weekend because the Dash, as we mentioned, a 2-0 beatdown against the Red Stars. The Rain, the surprise 1-1 draw with Sky Blue FC. It's in Seattle. It's a 10 o'clock start on the East Coast. So, 7 o'clock West Coast, I guess. The late game, nonetheless. What do you think about this game?
Oh, Baxter, this is a tough one.
This is the hardest game for me to predict
because Houston's looking really good. Seattle, of course, great goalkeeping, though, from Haley Koppmeyer.
True. Player of the week this week.
Player of the week.
Good for her.
Seattle's at home, Baxter. I think maybe I'm sticking with home teams. I don't know if that's how my picks have all worked out, but I'm going to take Seattle on this one.
You did take Washington to upset.
That's right.
Hypothetically, you're not totally there. Listen, I'm going to jump on the Dash bandwagon again. As a Dash fan, I think you do what you do to a defense like Chicago week 1, and you see a team like Seattle struggle against a team far less talented than the Dash in Sky Blue FC. You have to be feeling pretty good about yourself if you're the Dash, honestly, going into this game, especially when Ojai and Daly score week 1. Those are the players that need to get going immediately, and they're doing that. And this is all without Carly Lloyd, remember?
That's right.
So if you're doing this well without Carly Lloyd after 1 week, I know it's still very early, and I don't want people to start yelling at me and be like, Baxter, it's week 1, calm down. I still think, though, the way they played in that game, they dominated possession, they dominated the shots on goal. Houston, I think, is going to go into Seattle and make a big statement in week 2 and beat Seattle at home.
Let me just remind you, Baxter, it's only 1 week.
It is. I know it is. That's what I've heard. The people, I can see the tweets already coming at me. Last game, Boston Sky Blue. I mean, let's be honest. Boston was horribly underwhelming in their first game.
They were, and Sky Blue was very impressive. We talked about their young backline playing very strong.
Yeah.
Of course, Christy Rampone adds to that.
Helps. Governor General.
Christy Holly, he knows, well, Matt Beard knows what he's doing too.
Sure.
But Boston is still in a phase of rebuilding. He's got Matt Beard has the players he wants, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer yet for them to figure things out. I think it'd be easy to call a draw, but I don't want to call a draw, Baxter. I'm going to take Sky Blue FC in this one.
There you go. I'm going to go for Boston on this one. It is their home opener. I think they put things together, and I think that Rose Lavelle finally gets her first NWSL goal as well in week 2.
Well, that's. We'll see. I mean, it's a team that you could possibly do that against. I just think this defense is underrated by a lot of people right now for Sky Blue.
And I do agree with you on that one, absolutely. So let us know your thoughts and your predictions, of course. You were all over the social media world, on Twitter and Facebook, everywhere, of course. You can comment in the section below here as well. We'll definitely respond to your thoughts, of course, as we go along. But that's going to do it for us this week. A very special thanks to Christy Holly of Sky Blue FC, of Andrew Dykstra from Sporting Kansas City, and Jess McDonald from the North Carolina Courage, all joining us courtesy of the shopfutsal.com call-in line. Reminder, you can find us here traditionally on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central Time on Brew Sports. You can find us on their website, brewsportsnet.com, on their Facebook page. And you can also find us on our website, the number 2upfrontsoccer.com, and, of course, Spreaker, iTunes, and iHeartRadio, and everywhere else that you can find us that has great sports content, basically.
Yes, and of course, to continue the social media push, we can be found on Facebook as well, on our own Facebook page, 2Upfront Soccer. We're also found on Twitter at 2Upfront Soccer. He is at Baxter Colburn. I'm at Simon Proven. And don't forget, folks, check out Three Lines Pub at some point over the weekend. They are a fantastic sponsor of the show, and deservedly so, a wonderful atmosphere over there. Great food, great people as well. So make sure you check out some Premier League games over the weekend at Three Lines Pub.
Absolutely. He is Simon Prova, and I'm Baxter Colburn. Enjoy your soccer-filled weekend. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time on 2 Up Front. With our manager being the one above, we are 2 Up Front.